Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. For almost a century, Farm Bureau has been a friend of the farm for all Virginians. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Here's what's coming up on this week's show. Farmers recovering from disasters like Hurricane Helene have resources. Virginia apple cider is a key ingredient in this fall seafood dish. And how about these apples? We'll show you what happens after they're picked from the tree.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Hanover Peach Orchard in Hanover County. Coming up, we'll take you behind the scenes at orchards like this for an inside look at what happens after the fruit is taken from the tree. But first, the recovery from Hurricane Helene continues for many in Southwest Virginia, particularly Grayson County. Farmers there say it'll be years, not months or days, before they're completely back. At times, it can look hopeless, but there are resources for farmers that can make a difference. Ricky Barrier maintains an orchard of fruit trees on his farm in Grayson County, ground zero in Virginia for damages from Hurricane Helene.
What you get with a hurricane is wind and rain and usually some damage, but not to what you see here. I mean, this is the entire tree. I mean, you're seeing what looks like a picked tree here that was not picked at all. This was completely blown off from the hurricane.
Amy Byington knew as soon as the storm arrived, farmers in Southwest Virginia would need help. She works as an extension agent in Lee County on the far western tip of Virginia and drew on lessons learned by neighbors in Kentucky who faced devastating tornadoes in 2021.
It became obvious that we had counties that the flood damage was just so substantial and that we were going to need to do something. My counterparts in eastern Kentucky kind of experienced this, and I had been around some of their relief efforts. So whenever the question came of trying to help, I decided that I wanted to make sure that I could help any way I could.
So far, the response team from other farmers as well as the public at large has been overwhelming and emotional.
Sometimes Southwest Virginia especially doesn't necessarily feel as connected to the rest of the state. And so it's meant a lot to have people across the state reach out and you know, make us feel like, yes, you're part of Virginia and we've got your back.
Emotions remain raw for many of the farmers in Grayson County, where even recalling the day the storm hit can be gut-wrenching.
If a fella hadn't lived through this, it's something else. But bear with me, I mean.
Take your time.
With all the help, we appreciate it. I mean, some of these people lost every day. I guess we're fortunate where we live and everything. We can get by with a few fences and some stuff, and some people lost some crops and some hay.
Joins is like many farmers who, although they know they need help, are also aware that others need even more assistance. While that may be admirable, some farmers may be missing out on resources available to them. Linwood and Becky Broadus are crop farmers in Caroline County and have helped lead classes in the agricultural community aimed at addressing farmer stress.
A lot of us farmers, anybody, we try to keep it to ourselves or keep it inside because we don't want to bring other people into it and have them worried as well. But a big piece of that is encouraging someone to talk. It may be going and talking with your pastor. It may be actually seeking someone in the medical field, or just finding another farmer who's willing to sit down and talk or take you for a ride on the combine or the tractor or whatever, just so that they don't feel alone.
Farmers are also encouraged to call the AgriStress helpline during difficult times. The number 1-833-897-2474 provides 24-hour access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in their community. There's also been a series of farm dinner theaters in which farmers portray characters going through stresses related to the job. They're put on by the group Agribility Virginia. These programs encourage discussion about difficult topics such as stress, safety, and exhaustion. More of these dinners are planned for 2025. For details, go to Agribility Virginia's Facebook page. Agrisafe.org is also a great website for farmers looking for help. Virginia Cooperative Extension agents are stressing that while help is definitely needed now, recovery is a long-term proposition for Southwest Virginia.
Certainly hay and fencing supplies are the things that are most needed. Financial resources, immediate needs through feed and those kinds of things have largely been met. So now we're shifting to the longer term recovery. It's putting back the infrastructure, the fences, the barns, rebuilding water gaps, rebuilding bridges and roads to access a lot of areas of the farm that we just can't even get to right now.
While everybody wants to help right now, there'll be as much need 6 months from now as there is right now. And maybe even more timely. When folks have find a chance to heal and get everything, it's hard to build fence when you've got 100 oak trees that you need to pull out of the way just to get to the fence. Right. And it just takes time to do that safely.
If you want to donate, Virginia Cooperative Extension has a website with all the information needed. Go to the web address on screen. Virginia Foundation for Agriculture, Innovation, and Rural Sustainability also has a webpage for anyone interested in donating financial resources. The fund has received approximately 25 applications for assistance. So far, between $60,000 and $70,000 have been donated. In Grayson County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
Farming has always been a risky business, but before 1938, there was virtually no safety net for producers suffering from crop losses or natural disasters. The federal crop insurance program was created by Congress then, and a number of price support payment programs were also introduced to help supplement market prices for major row crops. Over the decades, disaster aid payments and price supports proved to be too expensive, so today most farmers depend on crop insurance to provide financial security. 60% of the nation's row crop producers and 9% of specialty crop and livestock producers took advantage of crop insurance programs in 2022.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, we're going to talk about an easy-to-grow plant, Lantana. Stay with us.
Southwest Virginia farmers are cleaning up after high winds and flooding from Hurricane Helene caused more than $159 million in damage to fences, pastures, roads, timberland, and livestock. While donated hay is coming in from other parts of the state, cash assistance is needed as well. The Virginia Farm Relief Fund has been established to help direct aid to farm families in need. You can donate or request financial assistance at vafairs.com/Virginia Farm Relief Fund.
Many gardeners are already looking forward to the next growing season. Mark Viette shows us how container plants can really elevate a landscape in the garden.
Lantana is a tender perennial. It really doesn't like cold weather. There are some varieties that have been at the Norfolk Botanical Garden. They're yellow varieties. They've probably been there for 30 years. The great thing about Lantana is there's lots of new varieties, all different colors, whites, variegated forms. Lantana is a great plant to use in a garden because it is drought resistant. Sometimes we forget to water these containers and the lantanas survive. So it is a plant that does not need a lot of water. One of my favorite lantanas, not quite as pretty as some of these new ones here, is the weeping lantana. The reason I like this is it weeps over your container, and it'll actually come down to about a foot or 2 feet from the top of this container. So you just don't have a cluster of lantanas growing upright. Now, you're going to notice we have some amaryllis. Amaryllis love dry conditions. They really only need to be watered one time per week. And you see right here the amaryllis with lantana planted around them. As I mentioned earlier, lantanas do like drier conditions. We even grow them in our tropical garden in St. Thomas, where sometimes it's dry for 2 or 3 months. The white ones are great, so they are in a variety of colors. Now, if you have a shears, you can deadhead them, but the new varieties really don't need to be deadheaded. The great thing, it's sort of like the supertunias, where when they flower, the flower falls off. So here, the flowers fall off, and then new buds occur, and new flowers occur. Now, in front of me here is a great variety. Now they've created variegated foliage. Can't wait till they get pink variegated foliage. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure over the next 10 years it will. But the yellowish foliage on the green matches the yellow flowers. Now, getting back to some of the hardier ones, the hardiest of all tend to have this yellow or orange color. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
Email your garden questions to viette@viette.com.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, mussels braised in cider and bacon. We hope you'll stay with us.
Farming is a rewarding way of life, but it can also be full of challenges. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text the AgriStress helpline at 833-897-2473. It offers 24/7 access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in your community. Please make the call, because healthy farms depend on healthy farm families. That's 833-897-2474.
Virginia apples are famous for their flavor. Chef Tammy Brawley takes advantage of all that great taste with a holiday cider treat from the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen, and welcome to Heart of the Home. Today we are going to work with mussels, one of my favorite dishes to eat, one of the least expensive seafoods. We're going to talk about how to clean them, and then what we're going to actually do is braise them in a cider. We always want to start, with this recipe anyway, with bacon. I love this little tip that I tell everybody. If you freeze bacon about an hour before you want to work with it or dice it, it makes it a lot easier to cut. This particular recipe says to crumble it after it's fried. I don't think that we should do that. I like to dice it when it's firm from being in the freezer, and then it is already diced and ready to go. I've got my pan warming up here to my right. We're just going to get a cute little dice on these. Much easier to dice when it's frozen. You know, as I'm sure you know, your knife slips. It can also be dangerous. So if you dice it while it's frozen, it makes it quite a bit easier. So we're going to slide that into a pan. Might not be quite hot enough yet, but it will be in a minute. Oh, there's the sizzle. Move that bacon around and get that going. You want it to render its own fat, and you want to let that go till it's nice and crisp. While that's going, we'll talk about mussels and how to clean them. These were fairly clean. I got them from a local seafood market, but when you do get them, you want to go ahead and clean them under some running water. You want to remove what they call the beard. You can see when I hold this one, this is that bearded part, and you want any that you see that has that, you want to get in there with a little bit of force, not too much, and you want to pull that out. Nice and clean. These were brushed with a dedicated brush that I clean things with in the kitchen. And they say that you should not really cook the unopened ones. Trust me, when they're bad, you'll know they're bad. And none of these were bad. They were perfectly clean as it was. So we're going to let those sit for a minute. We're also going to be working with leeks. I love leeks. Leeks and shallots are probably two of my favorite more subtle flavors to work with in the kitchen. Stir up that bacon a little bit. Now leeks are notoriously dirty when you get them. You can see this particular one I've got in front. I pinched off the darker leaves at the top because we don't use those for flavor. You usually typically use the lighter green on up to the core. What you want to do to clean them is put them into a bowl of cold water. What you do not want to do is pour that then after they've been cleaned. You don't want to pour it into a colander because then you will have washed the dirt right back up on top of it. So you want to have them in a bowl of water, just kind of resting. You want to kind of agitate your leeks a little bit. We've got about 2 cups here. I kind of break them apart with my hand. The dirt is going to fall to the bottom. You want to cut the core off the bottom. Cut the darker green off at the top. Now for this particular recipe, I like to quarter a larger leek. These are kind of big, some of them are small, you don't need to quarter them. But what you don't understand is they look clean, they really do, but once you get into it with cutting and the slicing, you will find a lot of dirt. So we're going to cut down the middle of one half and then cut down the middle of another half, and then we're going to dice them up. A lot of dirt between my fingertips there. So don't be fooled by what you think looks like a clean leek. Trust me, it's not. You want to put it in some cold water. So our bacon has rendered and we've got it setting off to the side. You want to leave a little bit of fat in the bottom because that's how we're going to saute our leeks. And when you come back to these leeks that you've got cleaned, you don't want to dump them into a colander, as I said earlier. Reach into your bowl, grab the leeks, put them into the pan. On about a medium heat or so. They're very similar to onions in flavor, a little bit more subtle. I personally love working with them. They're in several different recipes that are out there. So we're just going to saute the leeks, move those around. Go ahead and season it with a little bit of salt and pepper at this point, and the salt will actually help soften the leeks. So to the softened leeks, we're actually going to add about 12 ounces of a non-alcoholic cider. Fortunately, Virginia has quite a bit of cideries now, and you should be able to not have any problem finding your choice of cider to use out there. That's going to come to a simmer in just a minute. We're going to go ahead and add our mussels. And what's going to happen is we're going to cover our pan, and we're going to let them braise for about 5 to 10 minutes or so, and then they should be ready. And we can add that bacon back in. You could add the bacon before you add the mussels. Either way, it doesn't matter. All right, we're going to pop a lid on that. We're going to let that go about roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So our mussels went about 5 minutes or so, and when they are done, they will be open. And that is such the case here. I was going to reach in with a bare hand, but I changed my mind. So we've got mussels that have opened, and there you see the delicious mussel. I love this. We're going to put some in a bowl here. Get some leeks and bacon there. When you serve this, you want to serve it as such with the mussels in the bowl, but you do want to serve an extra bowl for shells for your guest to place the shells. Go ahead and do 4. Now, delicious. All right, I have got some beautiful parsley from my own garden here. I'm going to just take a few leaves off and chop those up for garnish. Sprinkle some parsley over the top for serving. take some of that delicious sauce, put it right over the top. Serve this with a nice crusty bread to dip into that sauce at the end. All right. And there you have it, mussels braised in cider and bacon. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
According to the Virginia Apple Board, the industry contributes about $235 million to the state's economy each year. In 2023, almost 43% of Virginia's apple crop was made into popular products like applesauce, apple juice, apple butter, apple slices, and cider. The 2022 Census of Agriculture estimates apples were raised on 828 farms, covering more than 11,000 acres, a slight increase from 5 years before. That's a positive change, as apple production in the Old Dominion had been declining for decades due to stiff competition from Western apple producers and imported apple juice supplies.
Apple cider and other farm fruit products aren't just for cool fall days. Ricky Gibson shows us some producers who are making fresh cider right on the farm.
I can taste the juice and go, oh wow, they put a lot of dessert apples in that, or they have some nice cider varieties.
Blaine Pierce has worked his way up from orchard worker to assistant cider producer at Silver Creek Orchards in Nelson County, Virginia. He works full-time, year-round, pressing cider from local apples.
Once it comes off the tree, we set it back into our cold storage buildings back here. We store them until we're ready to use. At that point, we bring the 20 bushel bins in. We'll take them over to the building over here, and we will dump them into that big hopper. We'll put usually about 6 bins in there. We run them across the sorting table, pull out any of the junk, any leaves, bits of broken bin, rotten apples, whatever we get, we got to get out of there. Then they go across the washing station where they're sprayed, and they're run across the scrubbing rollers, the brush rollers. And then they go into a rinse tank before they're augered into the hammer mill, crushed into basically applesauce, and then augered into the press, where the bladder press uses a giant balloon to squish the apples and squeeze out all the juice. We pump that up into the tanks, and then it either goes into jugs or like the 275-gallon totes, or we'll have a tanker truck come and take it away by the thousands of gallons.
We're mainly working with pack and shed seconds. Those are apples that come out of the pack and shed that are imperfect in some way, and that's usually what goes into our juice. About 95% of what we produce goes to alcohol. The other 5% goes into jugs. This time of year in the fall, jugs are a little more popular than other times. So we're focusing a lot on getting the flavor as best we can to fill up those jugs and have a good product for the consumer.
Adam Cook says he really likes to mix apple varieties in their cider for a better taste. They use both modern and heritage apple varieties. One of them, Ashmead Kernel, is a century old.
If I'm pressing apples in March, it's going to taste a whole lot different than if I'm pressing apples in October. Without the tart apples, it can be overly sweet, it can be somewhat bland. So the tart apples are basically the secret sauce.
All of the apples for this cider and apple butter operation come from Silver Creek Orchards, or Seaman Orchards, in Nelson County. The cider is treated with an ultraviolet light machine to kill harmful bacteria without losing that crisp apple flavor consumers love so much. The northern tip of the Shenandoah Valley is also prime apple country. And while the Shawnee Canning Company is processing other fruit products today, one of its top sellers is apple butter from local apples.
When the strawberries come in, once they're in, they either get ground into chunks or pureed and with a really small grind piece, and that's where the product starts to be dumped into a kettle. And once it's dumped into a kettle, it reaches boiling temperature, and then after it reaches boil, it adds sugar or any other ingredients that are needed. It's pumped into various kettles from there until it reaches the front kettle, which you'll see as well, which is our finishing kettle. And once it reaches there, they take the final bricks, the final pH, and they send it downstairs through the tube. And then from there, it reaches the fill cycle, which starts with the jars being sanitized through the deionized air rinser, comes around the corner, gets filled. We can fill anywhere from 500 to 1,500 cases a day, depending on the product.
The apples used here are seconds, not the grade A ones sold for the fresh market. They're ripened on the tree to contain the most natural sugar.
There's never a bad time to eat apple butter or apples, and it's actually comical. I can eat it year round. You can see me walk by through the production plant, and it doesn't matter what we're making, apple butter or anything, I'll be chowing down in my office on whatever we made fresh that day.
Johnson represents the 7th generation of farmers on this land, and his family has worked hard to build a business offering new and unique products to attract younger consumers to the farm market customers they supply. One of the newest bestsellers they have is apple butter made with Honeycrisp apples. They also have a line of 20 different salsa flavors.
Apple butter is our largest item, but our largest category is salsa. It's the largest condiment in the country. We make apple salsa, which, is a killer product. It's our #3 seller in salsas. And it's just, it's got diced apples inside there with the tomato flavor, a little sweetness. It just makes it, really, really a unique flavor.
One of Johnson's retail buyers is John Marker of Marker Miller Orchards near Winchester. While they purchase their cider and apple butter products from others, they're locally famous for their apple cider donuts and other baked products.
We use Pillsbury donut flour, we put in some spices. We add the cider, all cider, no water, mix it, put it in the donut machine in the hopper, and as we showed you earlier, they make a pretty good donut. We bake them in there, cool them, pack them in half dozens or dozens, put them on carts and take them out across from the front counter or by the piece in our bakery case.
25 years ago, Marker said he toured a farm market in Pennsylvania apple country and purchased a small used donut machine, and they've never looked back. Today, their market is 3 times larger than when they started and features plenty of other local produce along with apples and baked goods.
Cider is the perfect thing in a slushy machine. There's no sugar added. We do strawberry slushies, we do peach slushies during the summer, and we still have strawberry in there now out of our strawberries, but they don't have enough sugar content, so we have to add sugar to keep them from freezing solid. But on apple cider, we just dump the jug right in the bowl.
There are at least a dozen similar farm markets just here in apple country, and dozens more scattered across rural Virginia. Whether they offer locally produced apple cider or fruit or vegetables, they all support local farm families. And of course, Virginia apple products make great holiday gifts. In Winchester, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.
We're so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.